Hi, it's Linda Fox and I'm in the FourSquare studio. I'm with Jeff Glueck and he is CEO of FourSquare. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Linda.
So let's start. You came into the company about 2016, is that right?
I initially came in mid-2014 as COO, but yes, you're right, 2016 I became CEO.
Okay. Excuse me.
And we're 10 years old now. This is our 10-year anniversary as FourSquare.
And you've had a lot of change. I mean, now you're a location technology platform and you effectively provide your technology to other companies.
That's right.
But what was the moment when you thought, we need to change, we're not going to be this social check-in service anymore, we need to diversify?
You know, I was meeting Dennis Crowley, the founder and CEO before me, and as I learned about the company, coming in, having been an entrepreneur in travel before, and having been CMO of Travelocity, I came to the company and I said to Dennis, wait a minute, our technology can tell when phones move in and out of 100 million places in 190 countries, and we're only guiding people to a better local burrito. This is a bigger opportunity to connect the digital economy and the physical economy and create sort of personalized experiences for users in the process. Why don't we embed our technology in thousands of other companies so they can be contextually relevant and smart, and I've always believed that the places that people go is the best indicator of who they are. Mm-hmm. And so I saw this bigger opportunity. And so we started as a kind of little revolution within FourSquare. Most of the business was consumer direct. And in the first year, there were so many companies that came aboard. Microsoft and Twitter licensed our technology. We now power if you tag a tweet, that's FourSquare's API inside Twitter. And we have 150,000 developers now. But the business grew so fast, it quickly became 70%. And now it's 99% is our B2B technology offerings and data and analytics. And so we still do 1 billion check-ins a year. And it's still a wonderful consumer city guide and check-in diary. But the business is so much more, and I'm sure we'll talk about that.
So, using tech to match, you can see it in a consumer. You mentioned some of the brands, and Samsung and Uber that you work with.
Right.
But travel's kind of different. Consumer goods one thing, travel. How does that using the platform fit into travel?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of travel and logistics companies that we work with. Starting with, if you type this hotel, the Diplomat Hotel where we're having this interview, into Uber, that's our directory that powers Uber and Uber drivers. When you get here, if you tweet and you tag a tweet, that's us. If you get a Snapchat geofilter, that's our technology inside Snapchat. But let's go back to the travel planning process. If you're going to book a hotel, we're now live with Trivago, where we're helping consumers figure out where they want to stay. Mm-hmm. Especially now as you get these longer tail vacation homes and small hotels that don't have a lot of on resort kind of amenities, you want to know what are the restaurants, the stores, the places around it. So we're allowing Trivago to enable travelers to shop based on really cool attractions in the neighborhood around them and know that there'd be great stores and coffee shops and restaurants right around the boutique hotel. Let's say you're booking in Paris or in Omaha. And that's planning, and then you get down to arrival. We're working with Hilton. We're powering the concierge in the Hilton Honors app. So one of the challenges when you're traveling is you don't have the local concierge always with you as you walk around the city. And so now the Hilton Honors app with our technology powering it has taken all of the concierge recommendations, added them to the recommendations from our 60 million person registered community rating places, 100 million different places. And now wherever you are, you open the Hilton Honors app as an Honors member mid-trip and you say, where's a great cafe with Wi-Fi near here? Or where should I go to dinner? And they're learning because as they recommend great places from either concierge recommendations or our larger kind of community, if you bookmark a place, Hilton starts to learn that you like Moscow Mule cocktails, or you like organic farm-to-table food, and that could start to shape a profile that could tailor services. Maybe you like live jazz, and the concierge should be looking for jazz concerts.
So it could inform how they design perhaps their lobby or how they do various things in a hotel or
personalized services. But at the very least, it's answering a basic need, which is you can't have a concierge with people one-to-one, and now you can with our sort of developer tools. Okay. So it's we're all over travel in quiet ways, but there's so much more to do.
So do you worry at all that, as with the consumer check-in things, if Facebook started doing it, it's something I guess that Google could do quite easily, that could they also not do the technology platform that you're doing?
What's a lot of folks have tried, I think, to replicate what we've spent a couple $100 million in R&D doing, and location awareness is actually a really hard technical problem. I would say only FourSquare, Google, and Facebook have a global ability to detect accurately across over 150 countries when you walk into a specific store in a multi-dimensional mall or the like, and it's not a fully solved problem. It's really hard because GPS is inherently unstable in multi-dense urban areas and multi-story environments. It doesn't even tell you what floor you're on, and we have built, thanks to 14 billion times that consumers, real people, have verified which place they are inside at that moment. We built digital fingerprints and training machine learning for 100 million places in 190 countries. We now power TripAdvisor's background awareness.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the relationship.
And it's a good example because TripAdvisor is one of the great companies of the travel space, but they actually tried to build the Pilgrim technology, this awareness of 100 million places, arrivals, and they realized, oh my God, this is a really hard technical problem. And their employees would say, well, FourSquare is always right at knowing where I am. How come we can't replicate that? And the thing is, we've had hundreds of engineers working on it for, almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And the training data is really key in machine learning. And so why try to rebuild all that?
Yeah, just smarter to partner, right?
Smarter to partner. And so we have a great partnership with TripAdvisor now, and they're beginning to take advantage of this contextual awareness. I think you'll see stuff roll out over time, but we're live in that app. But just as we power iHeartRadio's local awareness, we power AccuWeather's local awareness, it's just easier for them to rely on an expert. And obviously they could rely on Google to some extent, but for a lot of companies in the travel industry, Google is a necessary partner, but not on their side necessarily, strategically. And so we are our customers, Twitter and Snapchat and Apple and the like, don't necessarily want to bow down to Google's terms and conditions for the next decade as they innovate.
So will FourSquare be a big part of TripAdvisor's new app launch next year then?
Yes, we were already in the app, and our teams are working on that kind of a greater local awareness. And look, when you stop, and we're also part of Airbnb Guides, right? And with our content similar to Hilton Honors. And so as you're on a trip, like, people tend to get there, they plan their hotel and their car rental and their flight, but they often arrive and they look around and they're on vacation and like, what do we do next?
Yeah.
And in the moment, you've got 3 kids as I do, and you're desperate. They're hungry. You left the museum in London. Where do we eat? And it's an on-the-moment thing. And so we want the apps to start getting contextually aware so that they can tap you on the shoulder and say, you're just around the corner from this great cafe that the Airbnb host actually recommended you stop at, but you're 50 yards from it. And just tap you on the shoulder gently and remind you of that to orient you. So that's the kind of experiences that I think will enable travel brands to not just book your car hire, but elevate your whole trip.
So I also wanted to ask you about your days at Travelocity, and what do you make of the kind of OTA land now?
It's a great question. Your audience may not know that I was co-founder of a startup called 79 and was acquired by Travelocity. And I spent 7 years as CMO of Travelocity and launched the Roaming Gnome, who's still around, even as Expedia now has acquired Travelocity. And so, I think the world is blurring. I mean, if you look at what Google is doing, or the meta search players are doing, or OTAs are doing, it's a kind of conventional wisdom. But the line between, is TripAdvisor a travel advisory service, or is it a booking service? It's all kind of blurred, and everyone's in everyone else's business now. And I think that creates a really interesting space for innovation. And I do think it's important for that kind of innovation that really smart and customer-centric innovation occurs. So it's not just a Google search that dominates the entire travel industry. I think that would be bad for consumers and everyone. Look, I've come to this Phocuswright show that we're at for many years as an entrepreneur, and then I was away for a number of years while working on non-travel companies. And being back, the biggest thing that struck me is there used to be one Google person here, and now there's, I think, 60.
Right, we counted them all up.
And so it's very important that every company innovate and not just expect that the world can't change.
So a couple of questions on funding. 2016, you raised 45 million. Is there an expectation to go out for more? Are you sort of sustainable now, do you think?
Well, we raised over 100 million in the past year. So we have hit the 100 club, as we like to say. So we have audience segments for over 100 million opted in U.S. consumers based on where they go. We passed 100 million in revenue this year in our 10th anniversary. We raised over 100 million, and we acquired from Snapchat a really interesting business called Placed.
Okay.
That is the leading business now, combined with FourSquare attribution, to measure whether ads work or not for the real world economy. So we work with 75 of the 100 largest retailers and dining brands in the United States to measure, like folks like McDonald's or Walmart or Subway sandwiches or CVS.
Okay.
And we help them understand whether people who saw an ad are more likely to walk into a CVS over the next month than a control group. And we're really bringing accountability and independent measurement to that world. And I think that will hopefully come to travel as well. Today, most of travel is kind of last click attribution still, instead of that multi-touch attribution that we practice and that control group incremental measurement. And I think there's tons of opportunity to make marketing smarter in travel.
Okay. And then more generally on startup funding in travel, what do you make of the current kind of landscape?
We are partnered with the Voyager, the incubator for travel startups, and we love seeing the innovation, and we want them to be aware of our developer tools. I think there's always room for new entrants in travel. When I started Site59 with Michelle Peluso back in 1999, people told us that Expedia and Travelocity existed, so why did you need another travel company? And then obviously after that there was TripAdvisor, and there was Hotel Tonight, which sort of grabbed the legacy of our last minute deals and Kayak and all this great innovation. And now there's this explosion of interesting startups. I think what happens though in travel, and I've seen this for 20 years watching the startup space, is that everyone wants to do a travel startup because they think travel's glamorous and it'll be fun. And of course, it's like any other business. You need barriers to entry, you need scale, you need a business model, and it's not just fun. And even when I was CMO of Travelocity, people would say, "Oh, you must have this glamorous job." And I said, "Well, it's a lot of email and spreadsheets, just like any other job." So I think travel is always going to attract people, and it's a tough area to differentiate. I'm hoping, there's every year there's 20 people who are hoping to do the travel planning space. And one of them maybe will survive.
Yeah, the rest end up in the dead pool.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of opportunity still.
Okay, a couple of wrap-up questions. What would you say are the main challenges FourSquare currently faces?
I think for us, it's getting the story out about our developer tool platform and how we can help businesses personalize and contextualize experiences. We're still, as a $100 million company, we still don't have an enormous sales force, so I like telling the story. And then obviously there's a lot going on in the privacy and consent world, which we are big fans of.
Yeah.
I've written in the New York Times recently that the US needs a privacy law like GDPR, but tougher. Mm-hmm. And so we are trying to be leaders in pushing the industry to be consumer first and consumers in control of their data. And what we find is if consumers are really in control and you explain to them how location will better their trip, let's say, half are delighted to get those services and half may not opt in, and they shouldn't participate. And I think it should be consumers in control. So that's a big topic for us, but we feel really good. If anything, we'd like to see legislation because we care about the next decade of the industry and all the good that can come out of it, city urban planning, healthcare, personalization, all these things. And if there's not trust with the consumers, we won't have that innovation happen. Okay.
And then just finally, what has been your wow moment in travel this year where you've read something or seen something and you've gone literally, what the heck?
Oh, that's a great question. I will say it's interesting seeing that there's a lot of startups in the business travel segment, right? And obviously Kayak is launching its segment. My company, FourSquare, has moved over to Trip Actions, which is this hot startup. But I will say that one of the nice things is the airlines continuously have trouble rebooking people, and seeing the automation start to finally happen when I'm on a business trip and 3 flights get canceled in a week. Trip Actions is immediately rebooking me automatically, and if I don't like the choice, I can change it in a minute on my app.
Rather than queuing and
rather than waiting in 2 hours for a stressful line. And so that is fine. I mean, we've been talking about that for how long, but it's finally happening, and that's neat, and it's visible. So that would be a wow for me.
Great. Jeff, great to talk to you. Thanks very much.